sleepy. Or probably gonna need a little bit of rest. Probably gonna need a little bit of rest. Oils, Melanie Cambridge, everything in here. Painting within 30 minutes or less. We're on Painting on Holiday, picking up on page 86 at the beach. Okay. Last time she talked about making sure you got everything, so a couple canvases in your pochade box that are already pre-tinted. She got a couple of places, painting in a busy place. You might want to stand up into the corner, sit down. Sightseeing. Watch the crowd so you can figure out the timing of when people are coming in the free spots. Getting some shade. Now we're at the beach. Beaches are among my favorite places to paint. With light shimmering off the sea, reflections in wet sand, brightly colored windbreaks, figures moving around, and sometimes steep cliffs or rock pools, there are always a lot of subjects to choose from. Even if you are with a group of non-painters, it is easy to find time to paint on the beach, as all most people want to do is sit and relax. Gathering reference material. If you wish to collect reference material for your paintings, please take care when using the camera on the beach, particularly if you want to photograph children or family groups. Always ask permission first. I find it far preferable to paint or sketch at the beach, as this does not raise the same concern from parents, especially when they can see that you are painting just figures, not specific faces. I find it far preferable to paint or sketch at the beach, as this does not raise the same concern from parents, and especially when they can see that you are painting just figures, not specific faces. So she has two on this page: boy with the bucket, the young boy carrying water from the sea to his sandcastle, giving me plenty of time to paint on. And then the next one is the old hairy rocks, painted on a board with tinted with raw sienna. Only the outline shapes of the cliffs were drawn with a pencil. Brushstrokes describe the surface using a mix of Naples yellow, cerulean, and titanium white. The next one, broad brushstrokes give strength and texture to the cliffs. The little girl ran up and down the water, providing me with an ideal opportunity to paint her. And again, everything painted within 30 minutes or less. In the mountains. Visiting any mountain location offers a wealth of subjects to paint, from soaring peaks to cattle and old farm buildings in the valleys below. In summer, flowers cover the high meadows, making wonderful subjects for quick paintings. A skiing trip might seem like an unlikely, I gotta say that right. A skiing trip might seem like an unlikely holiday for painting, but there is often time in the late afternoon to sit in a cafe or on the hotel or apartment balcony for a 30-minute study before dinner. Light in the mountains can be spectacular, especially in the evening as the sun slowly sinks below the highest peaks. So for this one, late afternoon sun, Valor, France. This was painted from the window of an apartment in Valor. I love the golden light in the distant mountain, so concentrated on this, and left out some buildings that were in the foreground. Moving figures. Having finished skiing early one day, I returned to the top of the gondola. Having finished skiing early one day, I returned to the top of the gondola station with my rucksack and poche box with a view to make a painting. I watched several groups of school children as they finished their ski lessons. The instructors in each group whizzed past, but the young children were slow enough for me to marking their arms and legs as they struggled to catch up with them. By observing several groups as they skied by, I was able to pick a quick study, partly from memory and partly by making in the shapes of the figures with a few quick brushstrokes. This approach can be used to paint any moving figures. I gotta say this over. By observing several groups as they skied by, I was able to paint a quick study, partly from memory and partly by making. Boy, I don't like what I'm saying that. By observing several groups as they skied by, I was able to paint a quick study, partly from memory and partly by marking in the shapes of the figures with a few quick brushstrokes. This approach can be used to paint any moving figures, perhaps a group of walkers or climbers in a hill, for example, or children cycling or learning to ride horses. It does require a degree of confidence and speed, but it is fun to do. Try it for yourself and see what you can achieve. So she had young skiers. I watched these figures first, then marked in the positions of their bodies, arms, and legs before finally adding the colors of their ski jackets. To capture the strength of a mountain, concentrate on the main areas of light and shade. Adding too much detail may weaken the overall effect. And so she's basically saying, like, she already said, like, to paint people and, like, you're not focused on too much in details or whatever. These are, like, quick strokes. Like, this is one and then two. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's a stroke. Two, do. Like, making the outline for those strokes at least while they're walking, and you're able to just capture that. Like, it's just a couple quick strokes to just capture it. No, the next one is how to use photographs. Oh, okay. Oh, should we finish? We got how to use photographs. And then we got, okay, we're gonna push through. We're gonna go ahead and finish this book today. Okay. How to use photographs. When time is too short, even for a sketch, photographs will at least capture the scene, but do take several shots from different viewpoints, as well as some close-ups of any details, figures, or other points of interest. This will give you a selection of images to work from when you get home. The next best thing to a location sketch or painting. This will give you a selection of images to work from when you get home. The next best thing to a location sketch or painting. However, please do not rely on photographs for color accuracy. The camera can distort colors, making distant greens appear much darker than they are. When using landscape photographs as your starting point, tone down any distant hills by painting them with more blue and less detail than can be seen in the photograph. This photograph was taken as a compositional shot as we cruised past a laden barge whilst on a boat trip. As we came past the barge, I took a second shot of the rudder detail to provide information for a later painting. She's showing some of the pictures she took and just capturing it from different angles. One down there and then up close as she was getting past it. Making reference sketches. When you return from your holiday, look carefully at all the photographs you have taken. Make a series of quick tonal sketches based on those you feel could be used to make a painting, as well as a few color notes. Refer to these sketches as you start to paint so that you can concentrate on the main shapes and tones rather than slavishly copying every detail in the photographs. Make this quick tonal study based on a million photographs to establish the best composition. The bridge has been moved in the gap left between the foliage. The bridge has been moved in a gap left between the foliage for the sky. Oh. Okay, hold on. Okay. So here's her sketch, and this was the photograph. So the difference was she took the bridge is a little that way. She took the bridge and moved it more towards the center. So took the bridge, moved it over just a little bit. And with all these trees, she decided to like leave a space. So took out the foliage, the shrubbery in the middle. Decided to leave that there. So boom, boom. But she just moved the bridge over and took out the trees. Took out all the trees and then moved that over, so. Nerja, Spain. This photograph has good potential for a painting, but is a bit fussy, with too many rocks acting as a barrier across the foreground. For this study, the buildings in the middle distance were painted loosely. Buildings in the middle distance were painted loosely. Only the church has any recognizable detail. Leaving out some of the foreground rocks encourages the viewer to look toward the main center of interest. So, here's the photograph. There's the photograph. And then here is the actual painting. So, not doing all of the rocks. Any other buildings loosely painted. The only one that has detail is the church. So photograph and then paint it. Right. I think it's the last page. Yeah, it's the last page. All right. Half-hour demo. Okay. I'm not sure what this is, but I'm gonna just read it. Painting on holiday. Whether working on location or painting from holiday photographs, keeping your brushstrokes lively when portraying texture in both rocks and surf is the key to painting them well. Try to paint as freely as you can and let your brushstroke do the talking. So here, she tells you the materials used. She's using a number 7 long flat brush, a number 4 round brush, stretch canvas, tinted with raw sienna, charcoal, alkyd medium, French ultramarine, raw umber, raw sienna, cerulean, cobalt blue, titanium white, Naples yellow, cadmium, red light. Draw in the overall composition with charcoal. Using the flat brush, mix French ultramarine and raw umber for the darkest rocks, with raw sienna added for the sunlit areas. French ultramarine and raw umber for the darkest rocks, raw sienna added for the sunlit areas. Add plenty of medium to keep your colors thin and translucent so that the brushstrokes show clearly. Wide brushstrokes in the edge of the brush to create an interesting surface for the rocks, and then put in their reflections with smooth vertical brushstrokes. Part 2. Put in the sky, believed gaps for the cloud. Put in the sky, believed gaps for the clouds. This will make it easier for you to concentrate on the changing color of the sky, from warm blue to cool cream towards the horizon. Start at the top using cerulean and cobalt blue with a little titanium white. Change into Naples yellow and titanium white near the horizon. Then block in the water with cerulean, raw sienna, and titanium white, again leaving gaps for the breaking surf. Paint the clouds using a warm gray and adding highlights with thick impasto marks of titanium white. Add darker tones to the sea to suggest movement, and then put in the surf using titanium white, no medium, and short downward brushstrokes. Start to block in the beach with raw sienna and titanium white. Start to block in the beach with raw sienna and titanium white. Add in medium and blend in the paint. Add wet streaks to the beach with cerulean and titanium white. Last page. Finish painting the beach in the foreground and blend the wet sand softly into the raw sienna. Change to the round brush to add the figures and dog. Mix raw sienna, cadmium red light, and titanium white for a flesh tone. Mix raw sienna, cadmium white. Oh, let me just read this. Finish painting the beach in the foreground and blend the wet sand, the wet streak softly into the raw sienna. Blend the wet streak softly into the raw sienna. Change to the round brush to add the figures and the dog. Mix raw sienna, cadmium red light. I don't know why I keep saying white. Mix raw sienna, cadmium red light, and titanium white for a flesh tone. Put in the figures loosely. Start with the torso, paint the t-shirts and shorts, and then the heads, arms, and legs. Use raw umber for the dog, with a little titanium white for his collar. Finally, add reflections in the foreground figure and dog, using a few horizontal lines of paint. Apply with gentle pressure onto the wet surface of the beach. She adds some reflections. The foreground page is a few horizontal. Apply with gentle pressure on the wet surface of the beach. That's the last page. book. We have finished reading Oils by Melanie Cambridge.